Hyper Light Drifter is a 2D action game that has you taking control of a drifter, traveling through the ruins of a lost world in search of a cure for this illness that your character has. The first thing I gotta mention about this game is the beautiful world that you'll be traveling in. There are so many little nooks and crannies and different areas and textures and types and plants and weird ancient technology and all sorts of really interesting stuff that just immerses you in this world because it's so interesting. To go along with the beautiful aesthetic is an awesome soundtrack that just suits this interesting world perfectly. I gotta commend these guys on what they've done to make an incredibly looking and sounding game. It's beautiful. As you progress through this interesting world, you'll find all sorts of interesting and creative looking enemies. These are birds and weird wizard types and just all sorts of crazy stuff that will come flying at you, and they'll shoot weapons at you and stars and guns and all sorts of stuff will be coming your way. And your character can react and move really quickly, so it's important that the controls make you feel like you're in control. And in Hyper Light Drifter, this is done really well. It could have so easily just evolved into, this just chaos on the screen all at once, but the tight controls really help the gameplay. The controls and gameplay are done really well in this game, but the one thing that was way out of whack is the difficulty. While exploring each of this game's unique areas, you'll run into mobs of enemies, little sequences where the game locks you into a small, tight area, and you have to battle a bunch of different enemies. And some of these times are quite easy with only a couple enemies who have some basic attacks. You can dodge around and eliminate them pretty easily. But there are a lot of times where you'll find yourself getting stuck in the same things over and over again because it's so difficult. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking, oh, Garrett, shut up, you just suck at the game. Well, maybe that's true, maybe I am a bad player, but I felt like every single mob that I started to get to towards the end of sections, I started to get stuck on. Some of their attacks are, area of effect attacks, or they can attack really quickly, and there's just a couple of small tweaks in the game that if they were made, the game would be way less difficult, but still maintain that challenging feel. For example, in some areas, when you're deep into one of the areas, in one section you get down to 1 health, you barely scrape by in a hard-fought battle, you make it out with 1 health left, then when you go to the next area, you might die instantly just because you only have 1 health left, but when you respawn, you'll spawn at the beginning of that certain section again with 1 health left again. If you get caught in one of these loops, you can get caught in this scenario where, okay, do I try to beat this next section with only 1 health left and maybe get a health pack in the next section? Or do I go all the way back to the beginning and start with a fresh bar of health, but then have to go through the entire section again? It's just a tough situation to be in, and it made it frustrating. The health system is kind of silly as well. You have 5 hits that you can take, but some enemies' attacks do 2 of them. So, if you're down to 2 health, you're thinking, well, I'm doing okay, but then you'll get an attack that maybe you didn't know was 2, and it'll take you out right away. So you have to really manage, because you do have health packs that you can carry around and refill your health, but it pauses your character for 2 seconds. So if you're in the middle of an intense battle, and you're down to 1 health, and you need to replenish, you have to stand there for 2 seconds while you jab yourself with this thing to gain your health back, giving your enemies ample time to creep up on you and eliminate you right away. The final boss in the northern area of this game is impossible to beat. I went to the east and I struggled and grinded through that section to start off. And I don't know which way you're supposed to go because the game doesn't hold your hand at all. There's no direction. So I just ran off and said, I'll just figure it out, I guess. And I managed to scrape out a tough victory in that section. But when I got to the northern section and the final boss was impossible. The guy has an area effect attack that follows you around the map as you try to dodge and weave, and then he calls in these enemies that you were fighting at previous areas, and they're all on the map at once, and he's just overpowered. I couldn't beat him. It became extremely hard for me to enjoy the rest of the game when I had to struggle for X amount of minutes on each of these mobs of enemies and the final boss. I feel like I couldn't enjoy it. I felt like I had to work just to get to the next little section of the game. There's not much focus on the story in this game. They've leaned pretty heavily on the music and the art style to tell the story of this game. And it's beautifully done, don't get me wrong. It's just hard to really follow what's exactly happening to this character when you can't see any words or what's exactly happening. Overall, Hyper Light Drifter is a really solid game. The game looks beautiful, it sounds awesome, the gameplay and mechanics are really well done, the controls are smooth, the level design is really well done, the enemy variation is real high. They have all sorts of different enemies with different attacks and different things, and in the levels they have different sequences with dodging sequences, jumping over platforms, and different variety in the levels as well. But what's frustrating is the difficulty holds this game back so much for me. This game could have been so much more if I could just really enjoy and go through the experience at my own pace and not being forced to play at a really high, challenging level that I know some players will appreciate, but personally I was looking forward to really experiencing this interesting world and exploring this at my own pace rather than being forced to be really good right away. There is a distinction between a fun kind of challenging and a frustrating kind of challenging. And Hyper Light Drifter to me is way more on the frustrating type of challenging. All it would take is a few adjustments with the health system and some of the enemy types and the amount of the guys that are around to turn this into a really, really solid game. I wouldn't be surprised if the developers maybe put out a patch for this game that just added a difficulty slider, and that could really change this game for the better. But as it is right now, the difficulty just holds it back so much. And for that reason, my final verdict for Hyper Light Drifter is a 6 out of 10. An above average game. I've got to definitely recommend this game to fans of the really frustrating and challenging type games. You'll have a ton of fun in this game. If you're looking for a challenge, Hyper Light Drifter is the game for you. But if you were seeing the art style and how the game looked and the controls and expecting kind of an adventure type game that you can really absorb the world at your own pace, maybe this game isn't for you, because for a lot of the time you'll be spent in intense battles just trying to scrape by. Well, that's it for Hyper Light Drifter. I want to thank you guys for watching. If you like what you see, hit that subscribe button. Take a look at all the other videos that we have for you on Yes Guy Gaming. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.